Hear today's Wish TV, your 24-hour news service with continuing coverage of Election 94. Sponsored by Hardee's.
Once again, good evening. I'm Mike Ahern.
And I'm Debbie Knox.
Let's quickly go now to some of the numbers tonight. It is a Republican night in many of the races around Indiana. Richard Lugar leading the way in his bid for a fourth term in the U.S. Senate. And as you can see by the numbers here, and easily winning with 60% of the vote in, he has been declared the winner for some time now.
And of course, he's talked about a presidential bid. Another very well-known Indiana person who has also talked about a run for the presidency is Dan Quayle. He's standing by live now with Ray Rice on the north side. Ray?
Yes, Debbie and Mike, thank you. Mr. Former Vice President, if we may just to get right to it, first of all, thanks for being with us. And how would you characterize what we've seen here today so far?
Oh, it's a great night for Republicans. We were just talking off camera about what a difference 2 years make. 2 years ago, it was doom and gloom for Republicans. Tonight, it's a lot of hope, a lot of glee, a lot of excitement. But clearly, the Republicans are doing well. We have a great opportunity to capture the Senate, an outside possibility to capture the House of Representatives. We haven't had the House for 40 years. We're going to pick up gubernatorial seats. So it's an exciting night. I hope it goes on and on and on.
You mentioned earlier today that you're going to be hitting the phones tomorrow to see what kind of support there may be out there for a Quayle presidential bid in a couple of years.
Yeah, there won't be too much time off. 1996 is 2 years away. Presidential campaign takes a lot of time. So those of us that are interested in pursuing the presidency will hit the phones tomorrow, start talking to our supporters, our friends around the country, and then make political announcements. I would imagine, certainly in my case, sometime after the first of the year. Some others may go sooner.
Some have suggested that Senator Lugar's victory tonight of some historic proportions may have an effect of diluting some of the support that would otherwise be going to you. Any reaction to that?
Oh, I don't have any comment on that. Dick Lugar and I are good friends. He's a good senator. I congratulate him on an outstanding victory. He and I have worked together on a lot of issues, and we'll continue to work together.
Right. Well, of course, you do operate on a national plane currently, but your roots are in Indiana. Any surprises out there tonight that you watch locally?
The biggest political story should be the state of Tennessee. This is Al Gore's home state. Republicans won both Senate seats. We beat an 18-year incumbent Senator Jim Sasser, chairman of the Budget Committee. We also won the gubernatorial seat held by a Democrat. That's a very good indicator that Vice President Gore obviously has very few coattails in his home state, and I'm not so sure it's a rejection of Al Gore. I think it's a rejection of Bill Clinton.
Very good. Mr. Vice President, thank you for being with us tonight. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
We'll now go back to Mike and Debbie.
Very nice, Ray. Thank you.
Thank
Ray
you,
Rice with former Vice President Dan Quayle. We mentioned earlier some of the surprising congressional races here in Indiana. One was in the 9th District, and here you see the figures that we have. Now, we have to be very cautious about this. We were stunned by these figures, as I'm sure you are looking at them, but we understand from other sources, television stations down in the Louisville area, that Lee Hamilton has a clear lead on this race, and in fact one station says he's even made what amounts to a victory speech. So we don't know where the discrepancy is here, but it's obvious because we have a tight race down in the 9th, but the reports we're getting is that it's not tight at all. Lee Hamilton is going to win another term.
Let's see what's happening in the 8th District. Again, John Hostetler's still in the lead here over Frank McCloskey. This looks like it might be an upset, but again, we don't have all the votes in. Just 33% counted, so we'll keep an eye on this.
We know the 2nd District is going to be tight. We knew that before we went in here, but it's 51% now, and there you see the numbers on your screen. It looks like McIntosh is picking up a few more votes as we go to Anne-Marie Tiernan, who is with the McIntosh campaign in Muncie. Anne-Marie?
Good evening, Mike and Debbie. The key in this race, a lot of happy people tonight, and they're seeing themselves on TV, and they're very excited about that. The key in this race will be the Delaware and Madison County races. You can see up here there are only 3 counties where there are final figures. Now, there is only 1/4 of the vote in for Delaware County and 1/4 of vote in for Madison County. There are still roughly 60,000 votes out there that still have yet to be counted, and that will be a key factor because those are primarily in the past democratically strong areas. So that's something we'll be looking for tonight, but of course the people here supporting the Republicans and David McIntosh are very excited. Back to you, Mike.
Anne-Marie, thank you. Anne-Marie with the McIntosh campaign in Muncie, Indiana.
There are some state races that we also want to alert you to that have been very interesting this evening. Let's start with the Garton race, State Senate 41, where Jessica Webb is up against Robert Garton. I don't know if we'll be able to get those numbers, but we understand, we can see from our computer right ahead of us that with 76 of the precincts reporting, we have a lead by Robert Garton of about 5,000 votes. There it is. Okay. Robert Garton apparently on his way to a win in that Senate seat.
Now let's move on to that to Mike Phillips. Of course, Mike Phillips, figure of some controversy in this state during the legislative convention in New Orleans, and whatever extracurricular activities may have been involved at taxpayers' expense. But here you see Phillips taking the lead over Sally Lambert with 12% of the vote in. That's still very low vote count, but Phillips has taken the lead in that district.
A couple of races here in Marion County that have our interest here. Paul Cantwell out of a job now. Irene Heffley has won. She almost beat him last time around and did it successfully this evening. And in the 100th district, again in Marion County, John Day, the incumbent Democrat, is out, and Martha Womack is the new state rep there.
That's a surprise. John Day, the incumbent, has had that seat for some time. Yeah,
that's right.
A couple of changes there in the state legislative representation from Marion County. Also, you want to tell you, here's the prosecutor's race, by the way. Scott Newman, although Jeff Modisett has not yet conceded, we understand. Modisett is trailing in that race by 4,000 votes with 90% in. Scott Newman made what sounded like a victory statement earlier, but Modisett is not conceding. And where the discrepancy came in that earlier, we understand, is that one of the Republican Party officials had announced that he has conceded.
Now we're getting that he has conceded.
We've just heard that. All right, Modisett has conceded, because earlier the Republican Party was saying that he had, and
it's been
we got
changing
some mix-up in that.
Minute by minute. Well, let's go to Democratic headquarters now with Ken Owen. Ken.
We're at the Hyatt Regency, Debbie and Mike, and yes, Jeff Modisett has just conceded. Ann Delaney, the state Democratic chairwoman, is here with me. Jeff Modisett made his announcement at county headquarters. Jim Johnson, the Senate candidate, just made his concession speech. And what went wrong tonight for Democrats?
Well, obviously we faced a tidal wave of close to the status quo. Well, I can't say that there's no point in placing blame on one person. No one person's responsible for anything.
You've lost Jill Long, Frank McCloskey tonight. What's your read on the situation in the 2nd district?
Well, I think that the 2nd district is a close race. Unfortunately, if that tidal wave is as strong as it appears to be, I think it's going to be a very uphill battle for Joe Hogsett, who's a very, very high-quality candidate.
And the state House and Senate situations, can Democrats retain control of the House?
Well, the state House is still in the balance and probably won't be decided to the wee hours of the morning. And obviously, if we can maintain control of the House, that will be a tremendous victory in this kind of a climate.
Did you foresee, obviously we'd heard a lot of talk about the Republicans having a big year and the mood of change in the voters. Did you foresee it being this big?
The depth of the year? Yeah. No, we did not. We thought that they'd do relatively well. We certainly thought that they had the potential for doing very well, but certainly not this dynamic, no.
And the Jeff Modisett loss has to be the big shocker.
Well, it is, because Jeff ran a tremendous campaign, and obviously coming as close as he did in this kind of an environment shows in a normal year he would have easily won. So but these are forces beyond his control and beyond the control of anybody in the state of Indiana.
One final question, and you just rallied the troops, and you said in '96 it could be a totally different political climate.
I expect that our Republican opponents are very good at fighting amongst themselves. They now have 2 candidates for president coming from Indiana. They have 3 candidates for governor. There'll be some bloodletting. I think '96 will be a different year. We'll be back.
Ann Delaney, state Democratic chairwoman, thank you for joining us. Back to you, Mike.
Yeah, Ken, did you say that the Democrats have conceded the 8th district seat? Did you say that McCloskey has, they've given that one up?
I don't believe they've conceded, but Ann, Mike asks, have you conceded the 8th district seat?
It's not my place to concede the 8th district seat. That's Congressman McCloskey's place.
But would you call it a tough battle to win at this point?
It's tough, but it is difficult in that widely spread out district in rural and urban counties to tell where the counts are coming from, so it's a little too soon to say.
And thank you. Back to you, Mike.
All right, Ken. Very good. Thanks. Let's look at the board on that, can we? The 8th district race, because that was a tight one throughout the evening. Well,
maybe we can't get that right now.
We'll get to that. There it is. Hostetler, 36,000. McCloskey, 30,000. Only 39% in, so that's not over yet. But certainly, that's another seat that the Republicans were gunning for down there in the 8th district.
They say the votes from Evansville may make a difference in that one. Yeah. Well, that's what we have at this hour. Before we do that, let's take a look at our Marion County prosecutor race numbers before we break away here. Let's see if we can get those very quickly to see how that's shaping up. Again, we should mention that Jeff Modisett has apparently conceded the race to Scott Newman, and now it's official. 90% of the precincts reporting, and it is a win for Scott Newman this evening.
Here's Scott Newman's acceptance speech, or victory speech.
Admit that my concession speech was much better than my acceptance speech. I put a lot more work and preparation into it. But I'll do the best I can. I want to, there's been a lot of talk in this campaign about toughness and who is tough. But what I feel tonight has nothing to do with toughness and everything to do with strength. And I want to acknowledge people that gave us the strength to make this happen. First of all, my family, my parents, my mother and father.